Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Abzo. Today we are going to talk about Python list and list operations. So let's get started. So if you are new here, kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe for more tutorials. And if you are not new here, thank you for coming back, and make sure to hit on the like button and comment your questions and contributions below. So what's a Python list? A Python list is what's a list? Or a list in general is just a container that holds many objects under a single name. And the objects in Python, the objects that it can hold can be of the same data type or not. And being of the same data type means in a list, you can have lists within a list. You can have integers, you can have variable names, and a whole lot. You can have boolean inside there. So tuples and dictionaries all can be found in one same list. And also an example of list are a typical example of is a list of fruits. So example, you are asked what are the list, mention a number of fruits you know. You want to mention them, they are what? You can put them in the form of a list. So how do we define a list in Python? To define a list is just the rules, the variable name obeys the rules of obeying variables. So with the list name at the left hand and the list elements. So in Python list, we use a square bracket to name it. So everything is captured within squared brackets and separated by a comma. So the first one we have element 1, element 2, element 3. And we have fruit. So let's just use the IDLE to do it. So to open your IDLE, just search for IDLE. Or when you type Python, it will appear for you. So what we simply do is, so to define a list, let's say list of fruit. So I just say fruit, and I'll input the name. So inside the square bracket, I'll type in the name of the fruit. So mango, separated by a comma, orange, pear. As far as I've not predefined them, I'll put them in the form of what? A string. And finally, let me put a banana. So this is a list that I've just defined. So to check for the type, you just type and you put in the variable name. So fruit. Sorry, the variable name I rather kept fruit, so it's even type, and the variable name is fruit. So it gives you a class list. So that means what? It's a list that I've just defined. And what's other way of defining list? So let me define another list here. So I'll call it best friends. And with the same way, I can type in the name. So you can type as many elements as you want in the list, depending on the objects you are dealing with. So for example, this is just a simple list of 3 elements. And you can have a list that is more complex than this, that contains various data types. For example, let me name one complex list. Complex list. So complex list is, so for example, inside the list I can have my name, I can have my age, inside the same list I can have a list of schools I attended. And I can even have maybe any question. So do you love Python? My answer is true. So I have what? Different elements in that list, and it's a list still. So if I ask for the type of it, complex list. It gives me what? Class of list. It's a list, but inside this list we have what? Numbers. I have a string here, that's my name. I have a number here. I have a list within the list here, and I have a boolean here. So I have different data types inside the same list, and it is possible in what? In Python. And to access, so the next place we'll look at is how do you access the elements within a list. So just to access the elements, if you watch the strings video, how to access individual strings within the string, it's just almost the same way. So this is how it's done. You type the name of your list. So let me use this best friends. So when I enter the name of the list, I'll just put a square bracket and put in the index of the list, and the indexing is just the same thing as what in the Python strings. So you can watch the Python strings to understand more of the indexing. So it starts with 0. The indexing starts with 0. So when I enter 1, 0, it gives you what? The index 0, and the index 0 is this one. That's the first name that's inside the list. And to access the second one, I can basically do the same thing. So if I enter 2, it gives me what? This one. So this is 0, 1, 2. And that's how to access individual elements. I can also access it with a negative this thing. So the negative, I'll just go to negative. When I enter -1, that means it should start from the back and to produce for me Sohinzo. So that is how to access the elements. And to access elements within elements, for example, the complex list. So we have complex. So complex list. If I access the third element, 0, 1, 2, this is the third element, the whole of this. So that will be what? 2. I have for me a list. So inside the third element is a list. So if I want to access, for example, I want to access Notre Dame, what I'll simply do is I'll use this. So this will produce the second list, a list for me, and within that I'll also access that one. So when I do this, I have my Notre Dame produced. So what it simply does is that it goes into the list and it searches for what? The first one it does, so it searches for the second element. So 0, 1, 2. And this is the second element. So it brings that one out. And from the second element, it accesses the first one there, which is what? The number 1, so which is this one. And that is it for accessing elements. So you can have more complex lists, but that's just the basic way of accessing elements. So let me bring, okay. So let's now move on to list operations. And basically list operations, there are many, but the basic ones you will use more is append, insert, sort, remove, reverse, and pop. So let's just learn by doing. So let me call out my already existing elements, so they can see them here. So this is a list I have already, so we'll just use this list to do whatever we want to do. So the first one is append, and what append does is it adds an element to the last part of the list. So let's say I want to add a name, so best friends dot append, and I put an element within there. So let me just put 35. So what happens is that when I call my list again, it gives me what? 35 inside the list, because it now would add 35 to the last part of the list. So that's basically append. You can, if you want to add elements to your list, that's what you use to add. And in case I wanted to insert the 35, but I didn't want to insert it inside here as 35, but at the last part I wanted to insert it between the first and second, that's the yin 0 and the yin. So what I'll simply do is this: I'll just go to best friends and dot, that function is called insert, and in the insert it takes two parameters. So I'll give in the position I want to put it. So let's say I'm putting it in between yin 0 and yin, so that place will be 1. So I'll just enter 1 and I'll enter the name there. So I'll just enter this name there, Damien. And it adds to me, it adds the Damien there. So here we have what yin 0 Damien yin. So the insert is what goes into the list and finds the second element and add it to it, and that's just the insert method. So what if I added something to my list that I want to remove? I want to take it off the list. So simply I just have to do this: best friends dot remove, and I'll put in the list the element. So I want to remove 35, so I'll just pass in the 35. In case it was a string I was removing, you have entered in the string, but of course 35 is not a string, so that's just what it does. It removes that element in there for you. And also the another way to remove is the pop. So best friends, so dot pop. But the pop, what the pop does is that you give in the position of the element to what, to remove it. So let's say I'm removing the second element, that's the position 1. So it will return that element and remove it from the list. So it gives me what, Damien. So what happens is that it releases out Damien and what, give me, and Damien will no longer be in the list. So you see, it's no longer what, part of the list. It has been removed, and before removing it, it returns it out for me. And the other methods are, we have, in case you want to sort the name, so best friends dot sort. So if I do dot sort, just as English, it what, is going to arrange them in alphabetical order for me. So S is the least alphabet starting here, so S Y I N Z. So that's just it. So sort is to what, arrange it for you. So in case you are to sort reverse, and we have the other way around, what if you want to reverse them? So from this element to that element, so we use the reverse. So reverse. So the dot reverse, what the dot reverse does is what, it arranges it the other way around. And those are just basically the main list operations that you can have. There are a whole lot of them that you can use. So when you just type the name of your list and you put dot, it will what, give you a list of this thing. So you have the count, it will tell the number of elements, the index, the pop, the remove, and the listen. Some of these listen, the count and the others, we use them in the string. So just check there. If you not watch that video, make sure to watch it, because I explain most of the operations there for you. So okay, the count rather should be taken the other way. So without, I have already done this. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section, and thank you for watching. If you've not subscribed, kindly hit on the subscribe button and make sure to watch the full series. I'll be releasing them, and